Feminism. So Donald Trump has been lauded as the great new feminist of the United States. This comes from his executive order banning trans athletes in women's sport. Let's take a look at him surrounded by grateful women and girls as he did this.
You know, if you'd like to gather around me, I think I'm going to be okay. Come on. Come on. Secret Service is worried about them. If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, you want...
I don't think I've ever seen a finer feminist, Destiny.
I mean, this is like classic Republicans. Like Donald Trump tweets out at 4 a.m. that he's going to make the sun shine, and then at 6 a.m. the sun comes up and everybody worships him for it. I'm pretty sure, didn't the NCAA already roll back a lot of the trans participation in sports in the United States? And then I feel like we've already seen like the Olympic make moves against it. Like we've already seen, like, I mean, in your country, in the United States, across the world, people have kind of like rolled back a little bit on a lot of the trans youth, especially the medication stuff.
Yeah, but you said the phrase there. When you say it's been a little bit and it's been piecemeal, sport by sport and age groups and so on, what Trump has done with one sweep of his pen is say no more of it at all, right? There will be no more trans athletes in women's sport, period. Now, I personally think this is absolutely the right thing to do. I think it's become the new doping, where people who have an unfair advantage have been, beating women, removing women from women's teams in, say, the Olympics and so on, actually beating up women, as we saw in the Paris Olympics, where somebody reportedly banned from the World Championships with male chromosomes literally beat up one female opponent so badly she quit after 40 seconds in the ring. So I do think this is a really important thing. Do you agree with him?
I don't think this is a very important thing. I don't even know if he can enforce this through executive order. Like, I don't know if this is going to be like some kind of Title IX challenge or whatever. I don't know what the courts are doing with this right now. It's just, I just don't think this is very relevant in the overall scheme of U.S. or world politics right now. I mean, if people don't want women competing with trans women, I especially at the college level and beyond, I don't really have a problem with that. I never really had a problem with that. I don't know if these two groups of people should be competing with each other. This is like a blip on the grand scale of things, I think.
You know what's interesting, Andrew? I've talked to quite a few on the left since the election. They've moved from the position before the election. I'm not saying Destiny was one of them. I can't remember, and you can clarify if you want, Destiny. But a lot of them are like, absolutely, trans women should be allowed to compete in women's sport. Blah, 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 blah. And Biden and Kamala Harris supported this with actual policies endorsing it. And now the position is, you know what? Nobody cares. It's a thing. I don't have a view. I don't have a view. And I think it's because, to their shock and horror, the single most effective political ad of modern times turned out to be that trans ad that Trump did, ending with Kamala's for they, them, Donald Trump's for you, but also including this issue of women's sports and women's safety and the issue of putting, as we had in England, in Scotland, actually, male who suddenly identified as a woman and got put in a women's prison. It cost the First Minister of Scotland her job. I think it's a big issue, far bigger than Democrats want to admit. And it's interesting, the narrative has changed from we're all in favour to actually it's just a small thing, we don't care about it.
Yeah, this has been a major setback for LGBTQ, period. The trans issue has been the entry gateway for the one of the most brutal attacks against the left in modern times. And all you really have to do is just ask basic logistical questions like, okay, which prisons do they go to? You know what I mean? We were past bathrooms. We were into prisons and can children get gender reassignment surgery, things like this. This has always been a very, very unpopular position for leftists, but they can't really back away from it because the T got attached to the LGB, right? So they could never really back away from it. They've had to kind of defend it tooth and nail. To Destiny's credit, he's always had a more nuanced position on this of I don't care, at least to my knowledge. But ultimately, this is not popular for them. It's never been popular for them. When you're talking about what Trump is doing with the gender binary, I somewhat disagree. Not that he, the thing I agree with is that he proposed at a government top-down level. The United States only recognizes two genders. Now he means sexes, male and female, right? That's what he's alluding to there. But I do think it actually was very punishing for feminists to have fought all those years for their sports teams, and then have men just go in and kick the holy shit out of them, right? And so that actually mobilized, Well, but I mean, it mobilized a lot of those feminists to move away from the left, because they were like, wait a second, this actually wasn't the liberation we signed up for, right? We spent all this time fighting for this, and now you can just basically put on a wig and go break all of our records. I mean, it's just a huge loser for the left. And
I agree. Destiny, I want to read you a quote from Andrew Wilson. He posted this week. The most disappointing thing about feminists is how made out of glass they are. With the slightest pushback, they break. They demand equality until you talk to them like you would a man. It's actually comical. Would you concur with him?
I mean, that's everybody in politics. I mean, everybody's a snowflake depending on what the issue you're talking about is. I don't think that it's ever been a huge issue on most of the left when it comes to trans stuff. I think there's a vocal minority on Twitter and in colleges that scream about it. I think it seems like it's a huge issue because Republicans wanted it to be a huge issue. Even that commercial you were talking about was quoting something that Kamala said in 2019. So it seemed like some huge, ever-present issue. But I don't know. I guess I'm looking more towards like domestic policy, like things related to immigration or healthcare or what's happening right now in our executive branch or foreign policy. Like I thought the war in Ukraine was supposed to end on day one. I didn't know that we were signing up to be owners of Greenland and the Gaza Strip and the Panama Canal. These things I think are more important, at least to me. But I don't know. Maybe some people are really powered by what Republicans think. I don't know.
I got a 13-year-old daughter. And I got to say, if I was living in America, she was born there actually, but if I was living in America with a 13-year-old daughter who likes sport, I would be very exercised about this. And particularly if she had to share changing rooms with biological men who said, I'm now a woman. Yeah,
I think I'd be more worried about my daughter like dying in Texas, like trying to get a medical procedure done, because I'm pretty sure there have been 3 deaths now so far in Texas of young women that are pregnant that can't have medical procedures done because the doctors have to be so careful when they're doing them that they can't accidentally abort a fetus, because then they'll be held liable for crime. So I think these are things I'd be worried about more than trans athletes, which are
more than a woman potentially being killed in a boxing ring by a trans athlete.
How many times has this happened?
Well, it hasn't yet, but it will do if it carries on.
Exactly, but it already has happened with the abortion thing. So that's what I'm more worried about. Yeah.
Yeah, but children's gender reassignment surgery, that is something which has been on the table for a long time. That's one. And two, when you're talking about this issue, it's kind of revisionist history, right? Now suddenly the Democrats don't care, right? Oh, we it was always a vocal minority. No, it really wasn't. These were very, very public fights going on at the national level, and the reason is because this was a moral question. We're talking about a moral question from the viewpoint of the Christian right, which most right-wingers are Christians. You're actually assaulting their religion. You're assaulting their idea of what moral grounding even is. So to them, it's a huge deal. For Destiny, who has a completely different moral prism, it's really not a big deal, right? He doesn't really care about it. It's not that important. But to the average person, at least to the average right-wing conservative who's a Christian, it's a huge deal. The assault of the moral foundation is something they're going to take issue with. It's going to be one of their top priorities. So to say that Democrats were not fighting tooth and nail on behalf of trans inclusiveness, including in sports and everything, it's just insane revisionism. Of course,
they absolutely were. I mean, I look at someone like J.K. Rowling, who got absolutely, destroyed by the woke brigade for standing up for women's rights to fairness and equality. Now everyone lauds her for her heroic stance, but at the time, most women understandably put their head under the vicious parapet and didn't want to engage, and that left people like her out on their own, getting completely killed by people who profess to be the Be Kind lobby. And talking of which, I wanted to play you this, Destiny, because it really annoyed me. Not because it's a comedian making a joke, that's absolutely fine, nor that I want her banned or cancelled or any of those things. Just about the blatant hypocrisy of what we're about to hear. This is Chelsea Handler talking about Melania Trump.
I am your DEI host, Chelsea Handler. It was a huge year for biopics, a complete unknown about Bob Dylan, about Maria Callas, and Honora about Melania Trump.
Now, Destiny, what she's doing there is calling the First Lady a hooker, okay? She's perfectly entitled to say that. But she would never have done that joke, and nor would any comedian have ever done that joke about a Democrat first lady at an award ceremony, ever. So my question is, are the Democrats, again, is it one rule for them, one rule for everybody else? And before you do the Republicans do other stuff, I know they do. And it just seems to me she would never have done that, and nor would any comedian if it was a Democrat first lady.
I so don't care. I mean, like, what is the question? Was the joke too mean, or would she not have done it towards a Democrat? She probably wouldn't have done it towards a Democrat because those types of people all tend to lean left. That'd be my guess, right? The same way that if it was any right-leaning comedians, they're probably not going to go super hard on anybody on the right. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. If you're asking if it's a mean joke, I mean, yeah, it's a mean joke. Lots of people tell mean jokes. I don't know what kind of...
No, it's not about the mean joke. Well, I think it's not really a joke. It's just calling the first lady a hooker is just vile.
Okay, the majority of... I hear a ton of conservatives right now that say that Michelle Obama and the wife of the French Macron are trans. Like, I'm pretty sure that's Candace Owens. She said, I would stake my entire career on Macron's wife being trans.
That's
so
not a ton of conservatives.
I don't know. Sure.
That's not a ton of
I see a lot of
conservatives.
jokes about that Michelle Obama stuff being trans, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, the Michelle Obama dick jokes are very old and have been going on for a long time, right? I've seen those. You've seen those. And some of them are kind of funny. But the point is that with Chelsea Handler here, there's one of the most promiscuous women in Hollywood calling someone else a hooker is,
right.
by the way, hilarious. And also, you're talking about an entire party who is pro-sex work, pro-sex worker, pro-prostitution, pro-OnlyFans, does everything it can possibly do in order to enable those things. And then at the same time, they're like, oh, I can't believe the first lady's a hooker. It's like, if it was anybody else who wasn't a Republican, they would probably glorify it. They'd be like, finally, our first prostitute first lady. Like, I don't even understand why, the depths of the hypocrisy here is actually kind of outrageous, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Well, I think the joke has more to do with pointing out, I think, the hypocrisy on the other side. For instance, if you make a joke about, like, I don't know if we're allowed, like, for Steven Crowder being gay, that's a common joke that people on the left make. I don't think the joke is, haha, you're gay, so that's bad. I think the joke is more, you hate this thing and you are this thing, which would, my guess is going to be, I didn't see her whole performance. I don't even know the movie reference she was making, but that's probably the joke, is that you guys hate prostitutes and you are a prostitute. You hate gay people, you are gay.
No, that wasn't the joke. That wasn't the joke. She's just basically calling she's calling Melania Trump a hooker because she wants to imply that she's actually a hooker. And I think that the point I'm making is not that she's not entitled to do what I think was a crap joke. Of course she is. She's a comedian. It's the fact that you would never, ever see at an award ceremony in America that I can ever remember any comedian, right or left, make that kind of remark about a Democrat first lady, a current first lady, from a stage televised at an award show. That's the distinction.
I mean, I haven't seen every award show, but, like, didn't Stephen Fry do a couple of really brutal award shows where he was, like, throwing it out to almost everybody? Am I making this up, dude?
Well, he's English.
Okay. All right.
Let's move on.
I guess you guys got away with that, huh? Yeah,
no, I don't think that. I just don't think any of them have ever called a first lady a hooker. It just seemed to me, I don't know. It's all about crossing a line in comedy and all that. If you do it down the Comedy Store, you can do what you like. If you're on Twitter or X now, if you want to do things, okay, fine. I'm not going to say you should be cancelled.
Well, I thought we learned when that guy made the island of floating trash Puerto Rico joke. I thought we learned there were no lines anymore. Why are we crying about her making this joke now?
Well, no, because the left went completely nuts. They thought he did cross a line.
Well, now we've learned.
They did go crazy about it.
Now you can just joke about anything, I guess, right? We're all in that.
Well,
world
you
now.
should be able to joke about everything.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but we can also joke about her being, one of the most promiscuous women in Hollywood, and that she's speaking out of both sides of her mouth here because she's been a big time supporter of sex workers, and now suddenly,
I think that's a really good point.
She's a hooker. It's like, what are you talking about?
That's a very good point that she used it as a slur, having professed to be the complete opposite about sex workers. Very good point. Talking of stinking hypocrites and vile people, let's come to Kanye West, who started the week parading his wife, Bianca Censori, naked on the Grammys red carpet. We're looking at these images now. It was a deliberate derobing. Whatever. I mean, obviously any woman can do that. I thought it was all a bit cheap and embarrassing and pathetic, and I certainly wouldn't want to be doing that with my wife on a red carpet. What was far more serious to me was what then followed, which was literally just a bombardment of horrifically anti-Semitic, racist comments. and then some pornography that he began flying out. One of his posts, sometimes you have to do it like the pharaohs, make your Jews work for you, but watch them as close as you can, whip your Jews. What was interesting to me, Destiny, was ultimately Elon Musk, I messaged him directly on X publicly and said, you're going to just keep letting this guy do it. He's breaking every single rule that X has about this kind of stuff. So the normal rules weren't applying to him, and he was doing it to 32 million people. So the free speech argument is one thing. Actually, the X in-house rule book is another that wasn't being applied. So it seemed to be one rule for him, one rule for everybody else. But secondly, it was clearly, in my opinion, when you start talking about making Jews your slaves and whip them, you are actually now committing a crime. You're inciting actual violence against a group of people. That is a crime. It's not protected by the First Amendment. But what was interesting was Elon Musk only intervened and shut down the account for the NSFW pornography, which was completely legal. So, you know, inciting people to violence against Jewish people was not considered to cross a line, but actually posting legal pornography was. I thought that was an interesting contradiction. What did you think?
Yeah, I feel like Kanye West to me, it seems pretty sad because I feel like it's pretty obvious that he has mental issues relating to, what is he, bipolar or whatever? So I don't know if he has these manic phases where he just starts going crazy. And I don't know if he either surrounds himself with yes men and fires everybody else, or if there's just a bunch of people like the Candaces in the world who are just around him to take advantage of him. But I mean, clearly he has these mentally unhinged moments. I'm sure him being as famous and as wealthy and as successful as he is probably doesn't help with that mania. As for rule enforcement on X, I mean, there's a million things that could be said about that. People have had a lot of complaints about Elon coming on. Obviously, a lot of people from the left feel like the platform has gotten a lot more hateful. A lot of people have said that the platform's gotten a lot more spammy. There's a lot more bot activity and everything. Some people on the right over the H-1B fiasco were upset that Elon seemed to be banning people who previously would have been okay because of their political / racial stances, I guess, or whatever. So yeah, it seems like Elon's been having a little bit of trouble getting a handle on how he exactly wants to present X's moderation to the world.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, I interviewed Kanye West a year and a half ago, and he denied having any mental illness, certainly denied having any treatment for any mental illness. And a lot of Jewish people in particular think it's just an excuse, that he just actually is a massive attention seeker. It was the Grammys. He's no longer a kind of, superstar rapper in people's eyes. He's just become this pretty unpleasant troll. And that he was doing all this to suck attention away from the Super Bowl, from the Grammys and so on. What do you think? Where's the truth about Kanye West, do you think?
I mean, he's done this before. I mean, he had a meme presidential campaign, right?
Yeah.
A total meme. Ultimately, some people took it seriously. Most people in the mainstream most certainly did not take it seriously. And yes, it's attention-seeking behavior. Stripping. First of all, this is not the first time this has happened. Remember that his wife also was in controversy because she had a cross on her buttocks, her naked buttocks, and then now she is at the Grammys, and what happens? He literally takes her clothes off, disrobes her. Humiliating, by the way, absolutely humiliating. I felt ashamed on her behalf. I hate saying that, right? But I just couldn't believe it, right? The disrespect towards your wife. That's, to me, in many ways unconscionable. When it comes to the X thing, though, the freedom of speech, what we're talking about here is this line in freedom of speech, which you're right. Elon Musk has not figured this out yet because it's not really possible to figure out. Is it okay, and this is what Kanye West is trying to say, is it okay to post as much, swastikas and I Heart Hitlers and, everything else on this as I want? And if it's not, why isn't it?
Yeah.
Why can't I?
I agree.
I thought this was about freedom of speech.
He's
pushing the number, and that drives attention to that account. And in many ways, it could have been a tactical move by Musk to say, well, maybe taking that down is not going to look good on me. And so when the time came when porn came up, he pushed it a little further, right? Okay, they're not banning my account. He's actually letting this go. How do we push the number a little bit further? Then he moves over to, okay, let's post hardcore porn. And then finally Elon Musk says, okay, enough. I tried to do the best I can. So Musk is trying to find this line. Kanye is purposely pushing the line so that he can test the limits of Musk and this free speech on X and try to point out hypocrisy, this kind of thing. But yes, I agree. It's for attention in a big way. I don't think anybody would disagree with that, even his supporters.
Yeah. Let's turn to the Trump Elon Oval Office presser. We've got a sort of this.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about. And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it.
Destiny, what did you make of that? Obviously, it's very unusual. You've got the richest man in America standing next to the President of the United States in the Oval Office by the Resolute desk. He's got his kid with him who's picking his nose. It's all a bit random and weird and surreal. However, I did watch it all, and I kept thinking to myself, if I was an average American watching this, hearing what Elon Musk is doing to federal overspending, I'd be cheering him on. I'd be all in favor of this.
Yeah, unfortunately, the average American, I guess, or the average person just has no idea how government works or functions. And I guess weird and surreal is just the way to describe now, or illegal, I guess, is the way to describe that this administration has decided to address programs that they don't like. If you want to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse, I don't think anybody would necessarily have a problem with it, but they keep saying waste, fraud, and abuse when what they mean is programs that I don't like. And they've already taken several almost certainly illegal actions in trying to basically unilaterally dismantle organizations like USAID that have been independently authorized by Congress that the president doesn't have the ability to do, to dismantle unilaterally. And now you've seen TROs coming out from the judiciary that's telling him, hey, you have to stop. There was the one on the federal spending freeze that not only was a TRO issued telling him that you have to stop freezing these funds. Now another judge has said you are violating the TRO. You need to stop this immediately. So I guess if you don't care about the legality or the process and procedure or anything having to do with the structure of government, I guess it's a cool thing. But if you care about like following the law or the rules or maintaining your government, then it would probably be a horrific thing. But
Andrew?
Yeah, you got this idea. I've heard Destiny kind of talk about this before when he's saying, okay, these are illegal actions and possibly the court's not going to be able to catch up with these illegal actions. And so Trump is just going to basically continue with what he's considering to be illegal actions. Thing is like people forget about things like jury nullification or like the idea that you can have laws. And even if you're the enforcer of the laws, in this case, the executive branch, you don't actually have to enforce these things. Yeah, there's no, like you're put there for a reason, just like a jury can nullify a law by saying, even though the law says you're guilty, I can still come back with a not guilty verdict. What's happening here is we don't even know what the waste, fraud, and abuse is. And so there's an audit going on, and this is exactly what Musk is doing. They're trying to audit this and get it in front of the attention of the American people to say, look, we don't want condoms for the Taliban. That was 15 million. Promotion of atheism in Nepal for 500,000. French LGBTQ programs in West and Central Africa for $1 million, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. $200 million 20 days in. I think that the American people do deserve to know that. And I don't think that they would, that this would be front and center or a thing we would be focusing on absent this audit. And I think that more of these government agencies should be audited. Now, Destiny can he can say, well, technically, due to the rule of law, we have judges who are making these impositions and this and that. It's like, yeah, that's fine, but that's all part of the process too. It's all part of the process of law. The process of law is playing out exactly like it should. Judges are supposed to create injunctions if something illegal is going on, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing wrong, though, with auditing these places. And for the spirit of transparency, I think that leftists are just pissed for no good reason. Like they go, oh, Musk is collecting all these people's information. It's like unelected officials at the DMV are collecting my information. The unelected officials at the Social Security office are collecting my information. Like so many government offices collect my information by people who I definitely didn't elect, and neither did Destiny. They're totally fine with that. But for some reason with these guys, no, that's too much.
That's a good point.
I mean, the reason, well,
that's
no,
a
it's
good
not
point,
a good point. The reason
isn't it?
why is because these things have been authorized by law. There's a process and procedure there. The Social Security Administration was created by Congress. There is a process and procedure by which they collect data, and they have a process and procedure by which they store data and who's allowed to access it. Elon Musk is definitionally an unelected bureaucrat who is now part of a shadow government who is going from agency to agency, cutting whatever he decides is necessary. In terms of there being transparency, all of this stuff was already publicly available. They've literally shuttered the USAID offices. What do you mean? They've literally frozen payments from the Treasury.
Yeah,
Shuttered them
yes,
and they tried to give a mass recall saying all the employees needed to come home, which was stopped by a TRO, by a judge. And now a lot of these programs, there was just recently a report by the head of the Treasury guy, who now is fired, who was saying that there's a whole bunch of food and stuff that we've shipped to other countries. It's just going to spoil because now we've cut off funding and money for it. All of these things have just been unilaterally cut by Elon Musk and Trump without any authorization from Congress, despite the fact that Congress was the one that authorized the funds for these programs and authorized these offices and agencies. If you want to remove all of these things, that's fine. If you don't want $500,000 being spent for trans ballets in Nepal for atheists or whatever, that's fine. If you don't want it, then Congress has to defund it. That's the way that this process works. It's not up to the president unilaterally to decide what he likes or doesn't like. That's already been passed
hang on.
by the Congress.
Well, hang on.
It's not up to you.
That's actually, I was going to say, look, that's not actually correct. He's entitled to do this, and then there
he's
can be
absolutely
legal.
not.
Well, hang on. Then there can be legal challenges, and Trump made it clear in the Oval Office yesterday he would accept what a judge said. Now, by contrast, I remember Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, when it came to the Texas ruling in a court by a judge about abortion medication, for example, she said that the Democrats should not accept what that judge had ruled. Right? So why is it one rule? Why is it one rule for Democrats that they can ignore a judge's order with impunity? But when President Trump says, if people want to challenge this, no problem, I would accept the ruling of the judge. Isn't that democracy?
What years was AOC the president of the United States?
What difference does that make?
What does that have to do with anything?
Because she's not in the position to do these things. She can give the advice on it. If you wanted me to ask myself, like,
she's an elected lawmaker who doesn't want to obey the law.
A lawmaker. She's in a different branch of government. She's part of the legislature. We're not talking about the legislature. We're not talking about a random lawmaker right now. We're talking about the president of the United States doing things to intentionally contravene. You can't just say you could break the law.
President Biden did the same over student loans.
No, he absolutely didn't. When the Supreme Court shut him down in one thing, then he took a different avenue. It was not the same. President Biden did not ignore temporary restraining orders. It wasn't issuing TROs to stop what he was doing with the loan forgiveness. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah,
to say that
this is
not the same. It's not the same process.
Hang on,
Destiny.
I just let you
Vance
go.
and other
Let me
people
respond.
have said over and over. I'm still responding to Piers. Vance and others have made it clear over and over again. They've quoted the Andrew Jackson quote, and they've said, well, we should just resist the judiciary. It is not part of law and order. It's not part of checks and balances for the executive to say, well, I don't care what a judge says, we'll just do whatever, which is what they're currently doing. And a judge has already said they've done with the TRO that was placed on them, having to do with freezing federal funding. So they've already broken with what the judges are telling them to some extent. And at the end of the day, there's no way to check and balance the executive if they're just going to do what they want to do. You have no checks and balances there. What are men in robes and lawmakers going to walk down and fight with the U.S. Marshals and the FBI? Like, it's not going to happen.
Andrew?
Yeah, right, exactly. So this is an issue. What you have is an issue of authority. So Trump he's trying to expand the limits of his office as fast as possible, and I understand why. Last time he was there, they were trying to impeach him from basically day one, made up this phony Russian collusion nonsense. He comes in now, he has nothing to lose. He's going to expand his office as quickly as possible, try to move things as quickly as he possibly can. And most importantly, he doesn't trust the judicial branch. That's what he said himself in his various speeches. I don't trust them to give fair rulings. I don't trust that they're actually there in respect to actual law. He doesn't actually even believe that. So what he's doing is he's expanding as quickly. Hang on, my turn. So he's expanding it as quickly as he possibly can. But he did say that he would abide by the rulings of these judges. He just recently said this, and we don't know what's gonna come of that. Right now, he's expanding this office to try to figure out these audits, this type of thing. I don't see what he's actually done wrong. You're already panicking, but we haven't really had a chance to see what happens if he abides by these rulings, doesn't abide by these rulings.
Right.
We don't really know that yet.
Right.
Well, Doge in and of itself is probably a wholly illegal agency. I don't think that Doge even exists. I don't think they have the legal capacity to even do what Trump wants them to do, number one. Number two, bringing up the Russia collusion stuff is funny when the entire foundation for Hunter Biden and Burisma was entirely fabricated. That person's already been convicted by the FBI for lying about the origination for that. And three, Donald Trump was already found to have people who were working with him collude with Russia. Roger Stone did it, but he was pardoned by Donald Trump, the same way Donald Trump pardoned all 1,600 J6 offenders.
The same way that Biden just
people that were
that Biden does the whole crime family, right? Pardons the whole crime family.
Crime family.
But that's fine.
Oh,
yeah.
How many crimes
And
have they
then- and
committed?
then pardons-
oh wait,
pardons
the
vouching
Republicans had like 8
Well, how do
years
we ever
to
know they're all
investigate them and
pardoned?
found nothing. How do
They're
you
all
know you had
pardoned.
8 years to investigate it? What do you mean? How many special
I don't
counsels?
know. Well,
How many?
how
many
did we have 8
Republican
years to
things? They
investigate
have
him?
nothing.
How did
because
we
they've
have
been
8 years to
investigating him
investigate him?
from as soon as Biden was in office. They've been investigating this guy, Hunter Biden, over and over and over and over and over again, and they found nothing. That's why
I'm
the
not talking
charges
about
we got at the end of the day
Hunter
were for tax fraud. Well, for Joe Biden,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
found nothing ever. They've
Well,
been
Destiny,
investigating
Destiny,
constantly.
hang on,
Fast like this
guys.
isn't going to make your
All
points any
fake
better. And I
news.
just want to make
It's
sure
all
that
fake
we
news.
Destiny,
can
why-
fake
get back
news.
to the actual
At the end of
point.
the day, the
Destiny,
facts
if none of
don't
them have
matter,
committed
yeah.
crimes, why do they all need preemptive pardons?
Yeah, they all need pardons.
Because Trump
though.
has shown over and over again that he doesn't need crimes to start chasing down people, and the Republicans have no problem hunting people down to try to go on
And
fishing
the
expeditions
Democrats
to find whatever
haven't been
crime they
doing
can
that to him
find.
for the last year.
Give me one example.
Stormy bloody Daniels. Honestly.
Did he break a law? Did he break a law?
What a
Also, that wasn't the
farce of a
federal government.
case.
That was the state.
Are
Okay,
you
so just don't
honestly
like the
happy
law.
that
That's fine.
the
You don't
only
like the law. If you
time an
don't like the
American
law,
hang on, the only
if you
time
don't
an
like the law,
American
you just don't
president
like the law.
has-
No, I don't care.
the
I don't care.
only
If you don't
time
like
an
the law,
American
just say
president was
that.
ever
Say, I
dragged
don't
for a
like the
criminal
law.
court was over a one-night stand with a porn star 20 years ago. Utterly
It
preposterous.
wasn't over a one-night stand. It was over misappropriating
Oh,
campaign
come
funds
on,
and then creating
Destiny.
a paper trail. You can, if you don't like the law, that's fine.
You've had presidents like Obama waging illegal drone programs, killing thousands of innocent people. Why is he not in a criminal
Illegal as
court?
per who? Illegal as per who? Which crimes? What are we talking about?
You don't think
You
illegal
can't
drone
just say
programs
illegal
are criminal?
because it sounds illegal as per who?
Oh, you think they're
You just say
lawful?
illegal because it sounds bad. Apparently so.
What
Yeah, he
about the
consulted with
illegal
the Office
invasion of
Legal Counsel
Iraq by
before doing-
George Bush?
What are we talking about for illegal invasion? Illegal
I'm
as per
talking
what
about
crime?
crimes.
Which crime? Which crime? What crime
A
are you talking
bigger
about?
crime
For
than
New York
sleeping
State,
with a
it was a
porn
crime.
star.
How you misappropriated campaign funds.
I'm making
What?
the point. I'm making the point. The only time an American president has ever been dragged through a criminal court was not over running illegal drone programs or illegally invading sovereign countries. It was over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star
these
that
are-
involved a bit of paper shuffling. It was completely ridiculous.
You have strong feelings about what you think should be a crime or not, but if you don't care about the law, there's no legal argument to be had then. If you just think it's a crime because it's bad, you don't like it, or you think it's a crime or it's not a
Destiny
crime
logic
because you don't
for
think it's a
you.
big deal, that's fine. But I mean, like, if you want to have
Yeah,
the
here's
legal
Destiny
argument,
logic for you.
if
As
you want
long
to
as
talk about
bad things are done via the process of law, that's fine. But if you do good
I didn't
things
say it
absent
was
the process
fine.
of
I'm
law,
saying-
that's bad. It's like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, I know. Here's my chain of logic. I know it's hard to follow. If you are a criminal, it's because you've broken
Talk
a
real
law.
slow.
Not all bad things are criminal, okay? Not all bad things are crimes. You can think somebody did a bad thing, but they didn't commit a crime. Donald Trump committed crimes in New York State, probably committed crimes insofar as Georgia is concerned, and he's committed federal crimes insofar as the Mar-a-Lago documents case was and the J6 case was. He won't be held accountable for all of that, thankfully, because he's dismissed it. He does everything he can to elude accountability, but those are crimes. If you want to say, I don't like the war in Iraq and that's illegal, illegal as per who? We could talk about the ICJ or the ICC if you want, but that gets obviously way more complicated.
No, that
But if you
wasn't
wanna
what
say
my point
illegal,
was.
you
My
have to
point
refer to
was-
crimes.
Yeah, it wasn't my point. My point was to say that from your view, you're only concerned about process of law
The
in
law,
this case,
yes, the
right?
law, yes,
Not about
correct,
not
yes.
hang on. Not about the moral implications of the actual waste, fraud, and abuse that is brought up. Only that the technical process is followed. So it's like, okay, but what if they're not following your technical process, but they're actually finding waste, fraud, and abuse from a moral implication? That's actually a good thing. Now, I don't even agree with you that they're breaking any laws. I don't even agree that they're breaking any laws. These challenges are brand new. We have no idea how this is going to play out. You don't, I don't, but we have no idea
We
if
have a
he's
good
going
idea.
to
We think we
adhere
can.
to what the court is going to say. No, we don't have a good idea. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's not. We don't know for sure that Trump is going to just go, oh, I'm just going to Jackson the courts. The courts can enforce their own law. Like, that is speculation that's beyond the pale.
They've
that I don't
already
even
done
think
that. A
there's
judge has
political
already
will.
issued a ruling saying they've already violated a TRO. So that's already happened to some extent. Now, how far will it go? Who knows? But they've already done exactly that. Doge does not have the legal authority to go in and unilaterally.
No, they're giving a legal
shutter
challenge
federal
back,
offices.
Destiny.
They have. They
Yeah,
didn't
they're giving
even
a legal
respond.
challenge back.
Read the TROs. Their response was, "Oh, we're going after fraud," and the judge laughed. And he said, "This isn't even a
That
response."
doesn't
to-
mean that doesn't wait. So yes, they are. Not only are they going to respond to this, but they're setting up for legal challenges to go back the other direction. This is obvious. And by the way, this is part of the process. Like, I don't know why you just pretend like these politicians don't expand their offices all the time. And that's what the judicial does, right? It comes in, it'll rein it in. It'll say this is constitutional. It's not constitutional. You can do this. You can't do this. They do it all the time. There's so much precedent for this, in fact. So if he doesn't adhere to what the judges end up saying, to what these courts actually say when he has no more legal standing to fight it, then you have a leg to stand on. Right now, you don't.